My name is E.R. Anderson. I am the executive director of Charis Circle. Charis Circle is the nonprofit programming arm of Charis Books, and Charis Books is the South's oldest independent feminist bookstore. And I should say the U.S. South, because this is a global event tonight, which is great. We have folks joining us from the UK, and so it is very late for them. It's about 10:30 and 10:40 now, and so we really appreciate them making this happen with us. And so I'm going to introduce C.K. Clark as well as our conversation partner, Grace Curtis. And it's a double thanks because Grace has hopped in at the very last moment to be our conversation partner. So we're very lucky. If you don't know Grace, Grace is the author of some very great sapphic fantasy books published in the UK and now in the US. Idle Fire is one of the best sellers, as well as Floating Hotel, and many others, including Frontier. So I'm going to drop all of Grace's books in the chat for you guys so you can check them out and buy them. Grace and C.L. Clark are good friends, and so you're going to get to enjoy the pitter patter of dear friends, which is always outside of novels, Grace mostly makes her living from video games. She's written for magazines like Eurogamer and Edge, and has a wonderful day job at an indie game publisher called Future Friends. When not writing, she can usually be found up a hill somewhere, climbing or hiking, or lolling idly in the grass. And she lives in Bristol, UK. So we're so glad to have you here, Grace. And C.L. Clark is dubbed the patron saint of sword lesbians, which is the best thing ever. And so we were like, obviously, we want the patron saint of sword lesbians to visit Charis. By Reactor Magazine. She's a BFA award-winning editor and Ignite award-winning author of several books, including The Unbroken, which is from the Magic of the Lost trilogy, Fate's Bane, which is a novella, and Ambessa, Chosen of the Wolf, which is an arcane novel. She graduated from Indiana University's Creative Writing MFA and was a 2012 Lambda Literary Fellow. She's been a personal trainer, an English teacher, and an editor, and is some combination thereof as she travels the world. When she's not writing or working, she's learning languages, reading about war and post-colonial history, and trying not to throw her kettlebells through the wall. Her work has appeared in various SFF venues, including Best American Science Fiction and Fantasy, Tor.com, Uncanny, and Beneath Ceaseless Skies. So we are actually celebrating two of your books tonight, both Fate's Bane and The Sovereign, because they've kind of come out close together. And so it's a bit of a double header for us, and that's very exciting. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in and let you know that you can drop questions in the chat at any time, and we will have Grace work them in as she's able. But I'm going to get out of the way. Thank you both so much for being here. We really, really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having us. Really
Yeah,
excited.
thank you so much. Cheers, yeah. Right. Shall we?
Oh
Shall we
boy.
shall? I will say to all of you lovely people who've made it to us in the Zoom call, please feel free to drop any questions you have in the chat function. And once we've yapped enough for everyone's liking, I'll have a look through there and try to do things in roughly chronological order so you can get everything you want to know out of our dear Sheree here. But yeah, thank you for coming. And I'm going to leap in with my first question, which is something that has kind of been haunting me recently and like haunting me like in watching you, which is that I happen to know you were working on the first draft of the. So obviously, Sheree's just finished the Magic of the Lost trilogy, beginning with the Unbroken, and then Faceless, and now the Sovereign, which has just come out. Wonderful, wonderful novel. Ruined my week, but it's good. But Sheree was working on the Unbroken for a really long time before she kind of settled on the final version that we have now. I think how many years was it?
It was almost 10 years from when I first started The Unbroken to when it hit shelves in 2021. I started it in 2012 and it came out 2021.
Exactly. So that is and we're sitting here in beautiful 2025 now. It's a big fat chunk of time. So I just kind of wanted to start by asking you what it's like being in the post trilogy world and how you're adjusting and do you miss it?
I don't know if I'm adjusting well. We'll start like that.
That's so fair. That's so fair.
Um, it's weird, right? Because it's it's um I think when you tossed it to me before as a sort of casual thing, you were like, this is like your entire adult life. And really it is, because in 2012, when I first got the idea, before I even started putting pen to paper, I was still in like I was in my last year of university. I was bright and young and fresh, and that's why it took me so
Oh, no.
damn long to write it well. Um, I wasn't grizzled enough yet to give you guys a tragic series. Um, but I think now that's almost or more than 15 years. It's almost 20 years, not quite 20 years. Um, but that's a long time to have imaginary friends that I just don't talk to anymore.
I know.
Um,
Do you mourn
and
them? Do you feel like
so,
they're dead or are they gone somewhere else?
well, I mean, some are some are dead. Um, Eh, in a way, I think that there's still like I'm flexible enough as an author and as a person to feel like I can revisit them whenever I want to, however I want to, even outside of what would be considered canon. Like if a character has died, I'm like, well, I don't care. I want to write another story with them. Let me do it. And I don't if you don't know me or my work or follow my website, I have an odd tendency to write little alternate universe fan fictions of my own characters. Um, I just do it because it's fun and because I like the characters so much that it's a way to explore them in different ways. It's a way for me to play with them without the stakes, the full stakes of a novel. I get a lot of the same things that any other fan fiction writer gets out of playing in their fandom is I get to explore their emotions. I get to make them kiss, even though they wouldn't ever kiss in canon.
What's
Just
so
that
good?
kind of fun. Um, like I've had an idea that I was throwing around of Sabine taking Touraine bar hopping. Like that sounds great. It would be so much fun. And but it's really just like I've spent so much time with them. I know them so well. I love them so much. That I will miss them as I move on. Um, and at the moment, I don't actually have another series that I'm working on. I have things that I'm thinking about, but nothing that's set in stone. So I don't have any characters that I've been with that long that I can foresee taking, another 10 years into the future. And to be honest, now that I am a contracted novelist for the most part, I probably won't get 10 years on anything ever again, let alone one book. Um,
I
and
never say
so
never.
I won't say never. I won't say never. But if I do, it will probably be like 5 books. They'll give me 10 years for 5 books, unless I'm like Susanna Clark or something. Um, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, I think I speak on behalf of everybody here that we very much enjoy the kind of playful toy box aspect of your writing and the larger world you've created. And I think the infectious fun and the love you have for these characters really shows through in the main project and in the sort of side things that you create. Um, on the subject of fandom-ish, my next question was, so obviously we have the big chunky, beautiful, tragic Sovereign that came out, but lest we forget our hashtag sad swamp lesbians, Fate's Bane, a beautiful little novella about kind of um, star-crossed lovers in a Viking swamp that I read and adored last year. And I happen to know, from speaking to you, that a big inspiration in this novel was Assassin's Creed Valhalla,
Hmm.
video game for those of you who aren't familiar. I wanted to ask uh, if there are any other, and I'm saying this with the most heaviest finger quotes ever, lowbrow or like pop culture, more sillier things that have kind of inspired you over time. Um, and is there anything that informed else informed Fate Bane or Magical Lost or even something you're working on now? I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, I don't know if I've spoken about this online, but one of the things that I really wanted to do with Bane was I loved the scandalous romance arc that you can play in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Spoiler alert, you can steal your foster brother's wife, and I thought that was great. Uh,
See, see.
um, so I wanted to do another sort of forbidden romance, and I was very interested in the idea of foster siblings, specifically as wards, like hostage taking, especially because that was, at least according to a lot of our fiction, seemed very prevalent back in the day. And so, in addition to that, Valhalla also inspired warmongers a little bit.
Warmong's mentioned.
Specifically,
Warmong's mentioned.
specifically, there is a DLC, like downloadable extra game that combines a character from a previous Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Cassandra, with Assassin's Creed Valhalla's Eivor, and the video is both of them as the female player characters, and they fight each other, and it's really hot. And I really just the whole time, I just wanted them to like fight and then kiss at the end. And I said, but I am a writer. I can fix this.
I can make them do what I want. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, So I was already playing with my story engine cards and kind of had the seed of a novel. And then I was just, that was kind of the clincher. I was like, okay, this is it. I want them to be like equals in might, but in different ways. And they're gonna fight each other. They're also gonna kiss each other. The order is undefined. It goes back and forth, which one's happening. And so that's Warmongers. But there's also one that I don't think a lot of people know about from The Unbroken. It kind of, well, I mean, it didn't kind of, it shaped massively the entire series before I knew what it would do. So originally I had a few characters, and I knew that I was going to have a character who was going to be like the protagonist, and then the rival, who was, as some of you know, um, Touraine's brother, who got turned into Touraine's mother. And then there was a character called the Exile, and I didn't quite understand her, who she was, but the thing that kind of helped cement who she would be and what kind of exile she was um, um, Full Metal Alchemist. Yeah.
I don't think I
Uh,
knew. Sorry, this is new information to me. Written by a
see,
woman. I have to tell everyone, female manga are so rare in the shonen industry. And yeah, yeah.
see,
Tell me
I did
about
not
that.
know that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hiromu
Wow.
Arakawa,
Just
my queen.
revelations for everyone. Um, yeah, so
I
the Ishbalans, they were the inspiration for Joshua. And actually, I kept a little bit of homage to that. I took out some letters, and that's how we got Shawl. Um, and yeah, so that's the secret lowbrow inspiration for the Magic of the Lost that I'm sure there's loads more, but
But that's the big revelation. Magic of the Lost anime novel. You heard it here
yep,
first.
yep.
I did actually see I can't pull it up off the top of my head, but I saw someone draw like very obviously kind of shonen inspired anime art of Broken once on Twitter, and um I was so gobsmacked. I was like, it's like my everything's intertwining. But yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, on the subject of kind of creating commonalities between these novels, right? Between the Magic of the Lost overall and Facebane. One of the things, again, was no spoilers, no spoilers. A little thread that I've noticed is tragedy, um, melancholy. Yeah, I would say full on tragedy. I wouldn't just say like bittersweet. I would say like proper Shakespearean things. And I think having read some of what you're working on now, I know this is only something that is only can become more of a theme through your work. Like right from the beginning of The Unbroken, it's like two people who in another lifetime would be able to just go get coffee, but in this lifetime they are on the opposite sides of like gigantic global forces. And with Face Bane, it's almost worse because it's so intimate. It's like family feuds and like my father hates your father, and we're all fighting over a relatively small area of land. But it's again, it's star-crossed, it's tragic.
Well, I
I feel
mean,
weird
that's
leaping back in like nothing happened. Um,
no, that's the first time that's ever happened to me on, but I guess I haven't actually used Zoom for one of these in a very long time for obvious reasons.
yeah,
Yeah.
we were coached by like a racist wizard. We got hexed. Saw some porn. Are you right to carry on, Joe?
Yeah, yeah, I'm
You
good. I'm
want
good to go.
to?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, where was I? um. Oh yeah, I was talking about lesbian. What is it? What? Okay. Well, I think I was rambling, but I will cut to the chase this time. Why do lesbians keep writing tragedies? And why is our tragedies better than everyone else's tragedies? Discuss.
Well, I think they're better because um we are writing them from a different perspective. For one, like I think so I actually wrote an entire essay about this very question shortly after, not shortly after, but just after thinking about Gideon the Ninth a lot, um, as well as the traitor Baru Cormorant. Remind me, have you read Gideon?
I
Yeah,
have a problem
no.
with Gideon.
See,
I'm scared
you
to read it because I know it's going to wreck me.
um, well, read the essay anyway because you already know it's going to wreck you, and the statute of limitations is almost over.
Yeah,
But the essay is at Tor.com or Reactor, formerly known as Tor.com. It's called "The Crosses We Bear," and it's about specifically about butch martyrdom in fantasy, which has a long history that stems, I think, from like the old school novels, like contemporary, like real world novels, pulp fiction, and also just like the chivalric tradition of
oh,
knights
Butch Martyrdom. I
and
don't think I've heard that before. That's
mm,
wonderful. Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
I was like, ooh, felt that.
they always die. And so I write a little bit about that, but especially through the lens of the queer writers who are doing it. So we have Tamsin Muir, we have um, well, I don't know about Seth Dickinson's life, but like contemporary queer fiction, and why it works better in some ways and than the old stuff. And I think some of the old stuff um, was people telling the stories in the only way they could. And I think also in that time, those stories were probably not they weren't so far into fantasy as one would imagine. Like very often a masculine presenting woman was going to have really fucking horrible time. Um, and like I'm sure that there were like uncountable deaths by suicide or by just general violence from the public, and we know documented cases of these from not just queer women, but trans people. And it's so that there is like there's a definite tragic history that we all have to carry um, with us as we continue to go forward. And I think we forget that at our peril. I think, which is something that we can see happening right now in the media based on how queer people interact with fiction now. I think many of us have forgotten where we came from and what a privilege
Pulling
it
the
is.
fingers. Yes, yes.
What a privilege it is for us to be in the places that we are now. Even as we backslide, we have made enormous strides in just in queer life in general. And even though I think that we certainly should not stop fighting, I think if anything, it should be a sign that we need to be fighting harder because we should be remembering how hard we had to get to this spot, let alone full equality for equality or for trans people as well. Like the fight's not over, and yeah, so we have a tragic history inherent in queer history, but also. I think ever since I was a kid, like there is something to the chivalric suffering that I just always kind of was into.
It kind of hits. It kind of hits.
Yeah.
It hit in the 12th century and it hits now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
Getting
it's just
everything you
like
want is not good storytelling.
yes. Like
Not for
well,
anybody,
there's
straight or gay.
there's the tortured like I'm in love with the king's wife. The king's wife is in love with me, but the king is my brother. Spoiler alert, I'm definitely not writing that book. Um And it's just like there's like the denial is something that I'm really interested in. The constraints of honor. Um,
It's hot. Why lie?
it is, it is. And so when you put that, all of these masculine ideals in a lesbian package, I'm just even more interested. I mean, I
Yeah.
am.
It makes it
And
more interesting. Actually, I
um,
might skip a question a little bit because, or I
Okay,
might, I
but
might
hold
move
on,
two questions around.
hold that
It,
thought, because I do want to. I saw this little note about bury your gaze, and I think it's not burying your gaze if everybody's gay, for one, but
and
also
everyone's dead.
it's not burying your gaze if you're burying everybody.
Equal equality. The whole room is the fridge. No one can get fridged if the room is the fridge.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I
Carry on.
concur. I concur strongly. I mean, this because we were talking about like honor systems are hot, denial of what you want is hot. Quote unquote problematic romantic entanglements are hot. And for those of you who don't know, Trey recently wrote a excellent article in Reactor about sex and intimacy in fiction, why it's important, the roles that it serves. Um, so I wanted to ask why yeah, everyone sit up. We're talking about the sex scenes. Lock in. We're talking about it. I wanted to ask why you felt it was important to talk about that now, and how it relates to perhaps a couple of books that you may or may not have put out this week. One in particular. Not naming any
Um,
names.
Not naming any names. I mean, well, um, I think it's something that it pops up in the discourse like clockwork, and I don't engage in discourse, like little tiny discourse, because I think that's a losing game. Uh, because like, you know, the little sound bites you can get on Instagram or Twitter or Blue Sky or whatever are too small to talk about something as nuanced as the things that we like in fiction, like in great depth, especially when we're talking about things like morality in our lives and how fiction shapes us and shapes how we live. And I think partly also the answer is always it doesn't really matter. Read what you want to read, write what you want to write is the ultimate end. So there's it's very circular because the only people who have a problem with it are people who don't want to let people live their lives. So um but I wrote that essay because I had just read a couple of books back to back. One was James Baldwin's Another Country, or yeah, Another Country, and the other was Ammonite, which is the book I kind of dissect in this essay. And I was really interested because I like to write sex scenes, but I do it for a very specific reason. I do it because, in part, I wanted to read them when I was younger, and I was tired of like getting after a certain point anyways, I was tired of only getting straight sex scenes. And so I was like, well, we need some gay sex scenes. Like just to, even things out. But also because I think regardless of whether it's straight or not, I think that we do a discredit to women's sexuality by telling them it needs to be done in a certain way, and it needs to be done cleanly. It needs to be like, I mean that in the literal sense and the metaphorical sense. And sex isn't clean, sex is messy. And I mean that in the
Yep.
literal sense and the
Yep.
metaphorical
Yep.
sense.
Love is messy,
Um,
sex is messy. Yeah.
yeah. And especially when that desire is turned towards women, it's often like, oh, well, if you want to say something about a woman's body, or if you think a woman's body is hot, you're just as bad as a man. And there are so many things to unpack with that. Like, first off, it's not bad that a man desires a woman's body. Like, it's just not. That's how we are
It's okay.
wired. That's
It's
that's
allowed.
that's kind of the point. If someone is sexually attracted to someone, that's normal and cool and chill. Whatever actions are taken after, that's that's negotiable. We can deal with that. But whenever a woman, especially a masculine presenting woman, desires another woman and are explicit about it and are not polite, like politely, like, oh, let our hands brush while we wash the carrot. Um, like,
Why can't oh good felt like Emily, I get you, I get you. I'm picking up
obviously,
what you're
come
putting down.
on. Um, like, if it's not dainty like that, then it's vilified like beyond just like same-sex desire in general. And so that's one of the reasons why I have my characters get horny in the books. Like I think even in Fate's Bane, which is a little bit more circumspect because um I wanted to come at things a little differently, and of like a full like insert tab A into slot B um, didn't fit the it didn't fit the language that I was
It,
working with.
the mythical quality you were trying to create, it did
Yes,
not.
right. But I like there are a couple sex scenes in it still. And one I kind of took inspiration from one of my favorite sex scenes in all of literature, which is in Sophia Samatar's Winged Histories. Um, yeah, it's a banger. Highly recommend it. But also there's a scene where she talks about jerking off because she has a crush on this girl, and I thought that was just really it's important. Like if a woman's not allowed to like want another woman, she's certainly not allowed to get off by herself about it. Like women don't masturbate. The end.
Oh,
That's why would
we
you
don't
even
fart,
say
we don't
anything
shit, we
like
don't
that?
wank, we don't do any of that uncouth
Mm,
manly stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
we just float
exactly.
around in a sort of spiritual ether, thinking
Waiting to
about
have sex
carrots.
acted upon us, maybe.
Yes,
Yeah, and
and
so
we
that's what
we
I wanted
will
to
begrudgingly
harness.
allow it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, I want my women to fuck. I want them to fuck up, and so that's why I wrote the essay, and that's why I write the sex scenes in my books.
Would you think the thing I was going to follow up with was what is, in your opinion, the sexiest book you've ever read? What do you think it's the Winged Histories? Because I can see an argument for that.
You know, I honestly don't know, but I think out of a lack of anything else, that would certainly be one of my top contenders. Um, I feel like Another Country has a lot of, it is a very sexual book, but I think it's a little bit too heartbreaking for me to call it a sexy book, if I'm
Mm.
completely honest. But if you want to study sex writing, that is definitely a book to read. Actually, I think that Garth Greenwell does teach it in his like sex writing class, and that's why I decided to read that one first. Um, and I think I did learn a lot about writing sex. Unfortunately, it was after writing this batch of books, so you won't see the benefits until later.
Till next
But
time, stay tuned,
yeah.
and you will see those seeds flower. Wonderful.
So the book, if I think is Another Country by James Baldwin, I think is the one that I was referring to for your question.
And on that subject, I was trying to have a balance of silly and serious, and we got into like a serious vein. But
Mm.
I did want to ask, out of the main Unbroken gang, who do you think
Uh-oh.
would have the best thirst traps? And by best, I don't necessarily mean who would get the most heat on, like who is gonna go the most viral, whatever, like who is having the best quality thirst traps that they're posting, if they post them at all. I have my own theories about this, but I'm keen to hear your thoughts as I guess the author or whatever
Mm.
you know.
Mhm. I think, no, I know. So in the alt fic that I write for this, Sabine is going to have the most expertly posed ones. Um, there is actually a recent bit of fan art by Pole Arts, Polartss, on Twitter and I think maybe also Instagram, um, where this artist has drawn Sabine with a little bit of a soupçon of Katie O'Brien as the reference, because I've mentioned that I think Katie O'Brien would be a banger Sabine. Um, and it's got Sabine with like a sort of chemise kind of uh, unbuttoned, shall we say, unlaced. Um,
Ooh la
and
la.
I know. And there's a rapier in one hand going across the body, and she's kind of like sprawled a little. And I'm thinking, like, that is how she would pose, and she would know it. Like, I don't care how many shots she would have to take, she would take them, pick the one with the best lighting. Like, she knows everything. She's
Yep.
very calculated about it.
Trying to make it look effortless, but meantime, it's like the thousandth picture that
Yes,
she's taken that you're
yes.
gonna see. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. But then
that checks
Touraine
out.
is going to be like effortlessly looking hot in the training yard. Luca's going to take a picture and put that online, and that's going to go like
Yep.
viral. So,
Touraine, I can see someone being like very quick mirror selfie. Didn't even think of it as a thirst trap, but then accidentally, it's like the talent versus hard work is how I picture those two. Can the master beat the one who's just having fun? Um, Yes, yes, that's beautiful. Thank you. I also think I'm going to say this to everybody assembled. I am a Sabine ponytail truther. I think that fan art is beautiful, but I think she is a posh horse girl, and she should have a ponytail because she is a posh upper class horse girl, and that's a head that they have. Um, Kill me, fight me.
no, I'm
It's
not
how
going
I
to fight
feel.
you. I'm not going to fight you. I've said it in canon that she does have long hair at some point and a ponytail. Because I also like I've referenced Gaston also as a reference for her. Like that's yes.
Oh, I can't unsee it now. Thanks. That's gonna live in my head forever.
But she
Um,
got a haircut at some point. So.
she got it chopped off Chorus style. Very sad.
Mm.
Um, so again, commonality between Fate's Bane and Sovereign, and indeed the thing you're working on now, which I shall not speak of. But something that I see in all of your work basically is two things: it's relationships and it's battle lines, and those things intersect and they intertwine and they are in tension with each other. Um,
Mm.
and I wanted to say, why is it in your head? Do you not to get too psychoanalytical? Why do you think love and war? Why is it? Are you trying to talk about war when you write about love? Are you try to talk about love when you write about war? Why are these things so intertwined in your head?
I mean, honestly, to answer you properly, it probably would be too psychoanalytical. So I don't think I will answer you properly.
Okay, give me a more intellectual answer.
The TLDR, I think I write about war so much because, which, dang, another essay. Uh, I because as I wrote about in this essay about the fantasy of peace and the fantasy of war and the fiction of peace is that I'm American for starters, um, and I was born in 1990. So while I grew up there, my country was almost entirely at war for most of my life, and obviously being in America, like I don't touch like the big global stuff doesn't impact me the same way. And I wasn't like in New York on 9/11 or anything. I was in Kansas. So like none of that really touched me in a physical way. But the more I learned about the US's role in geopolitics, the more being there as a Black person, as we can see from today's excitement, um, there is an amount of altercation always within me, without me, that you don't really get a break from. And so I think that Touraine is a bit of that. I think that um, that Agnir is a bit of that. I mean, I've got warmongers coming. That's all that, I'm sure. But
Warmongers is the
also,
most that there has ever been.
but yeah, I'm also just interested in conflict in general because um, for gender reasons as well. Like I'm interested in like when I was younger, I wanted to be a soldier because it seemed like the only place that I could be the kind of person that I wanted to be, which was I wanted to be strong, I wanted to be tough, I wanted to be cool, I wanted to be able to beat people up if they mess with me. And that's what we're told you do if you want to be that kind of person, if you want to be a protector. Like, I mean, like, look at the chivalric knights. Like, they're the soldiers of the land holding gentry.
I mean, the
Um,
whole reason that we invented the whole reason that chivalric code was created was because knights were basically rich people with weapons and armor who, as soon as they didn't have a battle to go to, would start pillaging the countryside. And so they had to create this fiction of an idealized knight because the real knights were so disgusting and terrible that they had to write a story about what knights were like 500 years ago and be like, you should be
so
more
that
like the old
people would
knights
be like, yeah.
because they didn't see the peasantry as human. They saw the peasantry as basically like a subclass of person who they could take whatever they needed from. And so yeah, like chivalry. How knights are bullshit,
Okay, I want
but
to read it. I want to read
compelling.
it. Well,
Yeah,
exactly. They're so compelling. If you want more of that, actually, you should also read The Everlasting by Alex Harrow, which is, oh, it's coming out soon. Go get it. It's amazing. And also just tears those narratives to shreds in like the most gorgeous way. Um, yeah, so I'm stuck on it for a lot of reasons. Part of it is analyzing why I am the way I am. And also because I think that one of the things about war that is beautiful is how we still come together regardless. And it's not always in a romantic way. Like sometimes the strangest thing that happens is seeing how kind people are to strangers in conflict, even people on the opposite side. Like I think sometimes about the Christmas Day armistice in World War One, where all the soldiers from both sides were getting together and exchanging things. I was like you just have been shooting each other for like however many years, and I like there's something harrowing and beautiful in it that I don't understand and also do understand, and so we write about it because what else
the,
what else
the
do you do?
exactly the Christmas Day almost just breaks my heart because that was right at the beginning of World War One. And there it was like it was this beautiful moment that absolutely horrified the superior officers involved. And there were like 3 4 more Christmases after that where they had to make sure it didn't happen again. It was like the natural instinct of the working class people on either side of this conflict to just come together, and they had to be forcibly torn apart and
Hmm.
kill each other for another pointlessly for another 3 4 years. Makes me
Hmm.
crazy. But yes, again, the humanity and the tragedy of it is so insanely compelling,
Yeah.
and sad. Okay, this is again, this is a bit of a softy question. I'm sorry, I am a softy, but I wanted to ask if you talking about like you being the person you are now and like looking back on your younger self and all the things you dreamed of and the
Hmm.
person you've grown up to be. Like, if
Hmm.
there is a passage from anything that you've written that you could go back in time and give as a gift to your little baby self, what would you give little baby?
I mean, I'd probably give me the smut.
You're like smoking, and you're like, here, kid. Let me save you some time. Could you go back and give my younger self the smut as well? Because I think it would help me come to some conclusions.
I'm saying. But like, so the real question, other than just being glib about it, which I mean, I would just be like, here you go, kid, knock yourself out. Um,
They might.
like when I was younger, I was so hungry to know what it could be like to be a lesbian, to be in physical relationships with other women. And now, things have broadened a little bit in my, you know, Uh, but like to to understand how things worked on a technical level, because I was sometimes baffled by the idea, but deeply intrigued. Um, there's also just like a fear that it was impossible. Not technically, but like emotionally and a life going forward. Like, what would it look like to live with a woman? Like, is that something that works? Like, how, if so, how would we have to fight to make it possible? And I mean, because remember at the time I was writing or even reading, this was before a lot of the things like the movements forward we've made in queerdom. Um, and yeah, so I was looking for for sex in stories. And also just because, if straight sex could be hot in books, then by golly, I bet like gay sex could be really hot in books. Come on.
And
Yeah.
lo
And
it
I was a
was.
horny teenager. So yeah, I wanted the good shit. So I would.
Go back in time and give yourself, yeah, like the good cush and a nice big slap on the back. I think that's beautiful. I think that is a genuinely moving mental image that I will treasure. And I just quickly, we're gonna do questions in a minute, so I want to invite everyone, you few faithful, our disciples who have stayed with us. Please feel free to drop any questions for Sheree you have in the
Mhm.
chat. You have their undivided attention for now. But before we
Mhm.
do that, I just want to give you a little window of time to hype up what you're doing next because I think it is very hype worthy.
So we've dropped a couple times. Warmongers, which is going to be a standalone novel.
Warmongers is mentioned. Warmongers is mentioned.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Eh, it's probably one of the most ambitious things I've ever done. It's huge, and to be honest, I don't think much is going to get cut. If anything, things are going to get added. Um, but it's about two women who were in the past, they were brothers in arms, essentially rivals, and they fall in love, as you do, with the only person who can match you on the battlefield. And then something happens at a crux point in their relationship, and 10 years later, the novel starts with one of them going to kill the other. And so the chapters are intercut. I took some inspiration from Ancillary Justice and the fifth season. Structurally, I'm really excited about that. Hopefully, it will be at least somewhere near as devastating. My pitch for it when I was giving comps to sell the book was the stories of well, Song of Achilles, but I've never actually read the Song of Achilles book. I just know,
Been around for a
Achilles and
while. The
Patroclus.
the, the
Yeah,
old story.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Troy, and so it's like Achilles and Patroclus meets Joan of Arc, and yeah,
Give us
so it
a
should be
break.
a good, cheerful. It should be a good, cheerful romp for everyone.
Meets the Wiggles. No, no, just all tragedy all the time.
I might put a wiggle in there. I might put a wiggle.
A little
Sure.
wiggle. Well, guys, I can tell you, I've read passages from this book, and though it is heartbreaking, it is also incredibly fun and vibrant and a remarkable piece of work that just feels every single page feels like a drop of a very deep ocean from what I've read. So I think you should all really look forward to Warmongers mentioned. You should all look forward to Warmongers. I think it's going to be a hell of a fucking ride. Um, okay, we have questions in the chats from people who are real, not the carrot. Okay, moving. Um, don't want to miss anything. Okay, we got one from Harley here. It seems that you and Touraine have a lot of similarities. Did you write them with the intention of being you in a different universe? Oof, did you?
I did not. I did not. However, in terms of certain similarities, like the physical similarities in particular, I really just was like, I have never read about a woman who looks like me in fantasy. I'm gonna do it. And if I have to do it almost exactly, then I'm gonna fucking do it.
Yep.
And so that is why we share such a sharp physical resemblance. Um,
Yes. think that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Um, they say, what are you currently reading, watching, or playing? Plug what you're up to now.
Reading. I think I mentioned I have not read a book in like a million years, the last couple months. I have been audiobooking while I run, which seems to be the only way I can read these days, like while I'm running and cooking and stuff. Because between finishing Warmongers, I couldn't put my eyes on other books, which this happens to me whenever I'm finishing up a draft or like really, really deep in one. So I kind of expected that to happen. Um, the books that I am trying to read and audiobooks. So the audiobooks, I've been going through John Gwynn's um, Faithful and the Fallen series. So like very old guard feeling, heroic epic fantasy. I'm a big fan of his Shadow of the Gods trilogy, and so I thought let's go back and see what he's about in the past. But the things that are exciting me in the print world, I've been reading this really cheerful, exciting, happy book called Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. I don't know if you guys have heard of
I hear it's the beach read of the summer.
it. Um, so that is great. And that's kind of a bit of research as well, because I've been interested in how people write violence and how they critique it. So this is definitely one of the ones to read. And then the other thing is an arc that I've received, and I unfortunately don't think that I will finish it in time for like official blurbs, but it's called The Shipwright and the Shroud Weaver by Rafael Torbella. I can't remember exactly the author's name, which is terrible of me, but it's massive. It's like this thick, and I'm only at like 5%, but it is blowing my mind. Like I'm underlining in an arc. I never underline in arcs. It's so good. So yeah, I recommend that you guys pick that up when it comes out in November. I doubt that I will revise my recommendation. I think it's only going to get better from here. So,
Shipwright and the Shroud Reaver for those who missed it. We got one last question here from
mm,
Abigail. If you wrote a genre outside of fantasy, what would you like to try? That's interesting, actually. Yeah, I'd like to know that too.
I want to write a romance. I absolutely want to write a romance. And one where everyone is alive
At the end, what's the point? If no one's
at
clutching
the
anyone
end.
else's corpse and sobbing, then like,
But is it really a C.L. Clark book? I
is
don't
it really
know.
happening? Yeah, HEA, yeah, a happily ever after. Okay, judging from the chat, the people love this idea, so I would say you'd better get on it.
I
Uh,
it's in the pipeline, the mental pipeline that's in there.
okay, fantastic. Does anyone have any questions, or are we happy to wrap there? The people long for a C.L. Clark romance, yes. Yeah, I think you don't have any questions. I think that's us done.
Hmm.
Yeah,
All
you with
right.
us?
Oh, there's a bonus question within the what are you reading? I did also just watch The House of Guinness, which, you know, I'm not going to quality control anything. Like that's not what I'm here for. That's not what I'm here for. But there was something that really struck a chord in me, and so it does have some future bearing, I think, on what I work on in future. It's a sibling like family drama. And it just really got me thinking, especially because my parents were in town. And I heard my father describing it to someone else as like, oh, it's a family of siblings, and the oldest one is Sheree. And I was like, why? Because he's gay? And he was. The oldest brother is the gay brother. He's the layabout brother, or like the one who's clever but doesn't really want to work in the traditional way, which is, I think, the role I play in my family. But I was
I
like,
wouldn't call you a
damn.
layabout by any stretch of the imagination,
Yeah,
but
and he's not a layabout either. He's not a layabout either. He's just he's a creative. He's a politician. I'm not a politician, but you know. And I just thought like siblings are so interesting, especially when you have more. And I'm the eldest of four, like in the family. And so I'm like, well, I I need to write a sibling drama. So
I love that.
Stay tuned for that, folks.
I think
yeah.
people would also clamor for a sibling drama of any genre. Um, the only news of that show that made it to the U.S. was that that actor was not wearing a prosthetic in his nude scene. That was his real body, and people were very hype about it.
I might
Oh,
have missed this scene because I remember aspects of like his sex scenes, but never like full frontal nudity. Mm.
Yeah. Well, apparently there is a scene, and he was getting a lot of press about it. So there you go.
that's nice.
Yeah, good for him. But he wanted everyone to know that it was really him.
It's all me, baby. He's all his own stunts.
That's right. That's right. So I have dropped links in the chat for folks to buy both CL and Grace's books. We also put Abeo put a link to your first essay you mentioned, and I put also "Everyone's in Love but Nobody's Horny," which is a great title. So both of those essays are in the chat as well. I just want to thank everybody for being with us tonight and also staying with us through our various interruptions. We live in complicated tech times where, I think technology makes some things better and many things worse. And one of the things that I really value about the spaces we create around books is being able to push some of that away long enough to really talk about the worlds we want to build. And so I'm grateful to y'all for building these worlds and for giving us spaces where we can live in the ways that we want to live. So thank you. And I hope that you'll come back to Charis, maybe even in person if you come back to the States. But thank you for being with us digitally and for hanging in there with us. And thanks to everybody for watching with us. I will be re-editing this and putting it up on our YouTube channel. So there will be a good, fresh, easy to watch, clean copy that we can share with folks who did not make it back with us into the room. So I will let folks know about that as well. So thank you both very much.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, of course. Thank you. And I hope you all have a great night. And we look forward to reading more soon.
Yeah. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
Thank you. Have a good one, everybody.
Take care. Thank you. Bye bye.